there's a couple ways to do that. Like if I want to make this metal, I'm going to leave this as a different group. Basically, we want to polygroup anything that's the same material. That's the way to do it. So like I was doing with this, this is all one group, whereas these are all different groups. Now, if they're going to be different brick types and stuff, I may want to separate them out, but I probably don't have to. I also need to down-res them. Now, it's easier to down-res them if I put them all together. So I'm just going to put them all into one big chunk per folder and then down-res them. Now, there's a couple things you can do with folders. Let me think. Yeah, that's that one. And that's that one. Okay. So there's a bunch of bricks in this one. And this one is in the wrong spot. What's this one? Okay. Let me make sure I'm not. Okay. So I might make the spheres on that one thing one texture or one smooth polygroup, and then the other ones into one polygroup, just so I have control over each of the areas. This is all one polygroup right now. It's not, but I will make it. This is fine as one polygroup. Again, we're just thinking of different materials, not necessarily textures, but materials, which are defined by textures in some ways. But we want different materials, and these are all going to be like from the same quarry or from the same brick factory or wherever you make these. More like big slabs of stone, so they're probably going to be from the same quarry. So I can right-click up here, or not right-click. I can go to this right here and say Merge Folder. Instead of doing merge down, merge down, merge down, merge down, I can try Merge Folder. And before I do that, I'm going to save, because I probably broke it last time. So trim start 6, like that. Okay, so I'm going to try trim merge folder, pop, and basically what it does is makes a duplicate of everything into one merged object. So it's non-destructive. Okay, so if we look at this, it's one merged object, but if I go up to the next thing up to here, they're all separate objects. They're still in my folder, they're still separate pieces. So I have that. So that's a good way of doing it. So I'm going to take this and go Control W. Again, that's how you make one polygroup out of everything. So it's fine, it's easy. Then I'm going to go up to this one's good already. We'll go to the rounded one. Let's turn up all these. Let me hide this one. We'll come to this one and we'll just turn them all on for now, like that. And that's weird. Just there's something crappily carved. Okay, so I'm gonna just for this class delete this one. Okay, so now I have this as one folder. So I'll go in, I'll go merge folder, and merge everything into one master. So it's all right here. If I hide that, you'll see it's just this one piece. So we can hide this, and then we have this outside of the folder. Might as well move this outside the folder. So we have these outside the folders are all separate. Then I'm going to take this one up here. I'm going to leave these two separate. I want to check and make sure there are separate polygroups. I'm going to do, just because it's close, I'm going to go Control W. Okay, I'll go to the slope one, which is all one polygroup. I'm not going to fight with it. I could have separated these polygroups before I merged them together, but I didn't, so it's fine. I'm going to go up to this one and leave the ball separate from the base. That's fine. And this one's all one big object, and I haven't even done any sculpting, but we're going to say that's fine. So we definitely want to make sure Control W, these are all one polygroup. Okay, so basically everything we have is one polygroup. Every piece we have is a separate polygroup. So this is a polygroup, this is a polygroup, this is a polygroup, this is a polygroup, this, and this, and probably, let me hide that one. And this is a polygroup, so Control W. This is a polygroup, and this is a polygroup. Okay, so they're all one. You can, doesn't matter what color they are, just sometimes it's easier to see them. Okay, so now we know they're all separate, same materials, same pieces, all good. Next thing we need to do is set up how we're going to render it. So I'll go back to this right here, the zoom out, make sure we have it zoomed all the way out so we can see the gray border. Okay, again, save it to make sure you save a lot, save yourself nightmares. Come up to document, and I'll pull the document over to the side by clicking on the circle. And then in document, you want to have whatever size you want your texture to be by default. Not 4096 at this point. We can make it bigger. These are just for your base normal object. And it really doesn't matter because we're not taking the textures out of here. But I like to keep it pretty high so my resolution doesn't go crazy for the actual 3D object. So Pro is just proportional, so I changed mine to 2048. It doesn't matter if I go 1024 and then say resize, and then you'll see that I no longer can move it around anymore. So I say new, and I drag it out, and I say T, so now I can rotate it around again, and then I can zoom back out, or whatever I need to do. Okay, so I've got a square document, that's the big thing. Right, big square document, it's square right here. It doesn't matter if it's 2048. This is since it's Pro. Yes, resize it. Control N, drag out a new one. T to make sure you're edit mode. F to zoom back out, and then zoom out so I can see it. I want to be able to see the whole frame. I need to be able to see the whole frame. And it's zoom. There we go. And it's zoom is right here. This is the one that I left over there. Zoom document. It needs to be full screen. The next thing you're going to do is come and make a plane or import a plane. So you can click up here. Let's say click here. If you hold, or you click and just don't move, and you roll over to plane, it'll open up a plane, brand new plane. You come back to your object with that plane sitting there. I'm going to delete the one I made before just so you have that too. Okay. And then I'm going to import that new plane I just have. So insert, plane 3D, bam, now it's there. Now the only thing that you might want to play with, because this is again in 3D space, is that these may not be lined up very well, so we probably want to line them up pretty straight. So I'm going to Alt click on this one, make sure I'm selected, and probably, okay, so here's a trick too. Let me turn off my plane. So in ZBrush, if I want to select more than one object, if I go to the Move tool, you'll see that there's this little hash mark right there. That means I'm selecting one object. If I click on that again, it means I'm selecting two. Which two is a good question. So the better way to do that is go to your tools inside of your folder and say transpose set. Because then everything that is not selected does this hash marky thing to it. Okay? But you'll notice this says more than one object selected. This is because I grabbed it inside the folder and made everything else kind of transparent. So if I go to the side, now I can grab everything and move it up without having to worry about moving the position of that. And just kind of get them kind of lined up. And then I would say click this to turn it off, go up to one of these, and then I do the same thing in that folder. Let me make sure. Yeah. Go up here, go transform set. You'll see everything. Oops, too high. It's this one anyway. Let me go down one. That's let's click this off. Slim. Yeah. This is all one object, so I can just move it if I want. Like that. Come back to this one, transform set. So it's going to move the spheres and the wall at the same time. Come to turn this off there, come to this one, say transform set, and move it forward. Just in case if yours were all not lined up perfectly. That's totally fine, not a big deal. Also, you'll notice my back is all kind of jacked up. That's because I didn't put on my back face mesh, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. In fact, one of these has that weird thing right there. It doesn't matter. We're just looking at the front because we're just trying to get textures off this. So now I've got that set. All of those are in the right same area. They're all pretty close to the same depth. Even if this pushes out further, at least it feels like they're the same depth. And if I turn this plane back on, you'll see that the plane is still not in front of, or it's still in front of some of these. So in that case, we'll come to the plane and we'll move it backwards. It's kind of hard to see the plane from a straight on view, but we'll just go to like there. Okay. And if we shift F, we can see the plane because I made it purple. Or I didn't make it purple, it made it purple, but they put it in there for me. Okay. So the big thing you have to remember is once you have this background as a square and once you have a plane that's default, which means it's a square too, all you have to do is zoom in on that plane. Now, how do you zoom in on that plane? It's F, right? But if you push F1, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does this, which is everything in the scene. Just push it twice and it should zoom in on that plane. Now you can check it by hiding, or you can just do solo, I'm sorry, and that's just the plane, okay? So it's perfectly aligned. And then you go back out of solo, you'll see there's your other objects that are just lined up and they should tile perfectly like you designed them. Obviously, if there's some problems like this, then you can fix it too. But that's basically what you need to start with. And then you need to do this. You need to say solo and then say, come over to Z plugin and say export, import, and we're going to say selected. Make sure we have the plane selected. We also want to rename this. We're going to call this texture base, just like that. And then we're going to export just this plane. And you'll notice I haven't done anything to this plane. I've been subdivided. It doesn't matter. It's just a plane. Because, again, we don't care about the 3D. We're trying to get the textures. So, export. And go to D, ACC classes, 20 songs, VGA4, and we'll call this texture base, FBX safe. Done. Plane can be hidden, sort of, but not really. So why? Well, okay, so when we export this stuff out of here, we're gonna have it do some option changes. It's gonna be polygroups as materials. One way to do it. We're going to leave it that way, and then when we export everything, it's not going to do just the frame stuff, by the way. It's doing everything, but all that we care about is what fits inside of that frame. So when we do this, so why did I make you do this? Because it's a habit, actually, as I think about it. But what we're going to do is export everything, and the reason I want to export everything, including the plane, is because I want that plane to be in the bake. So I have that grout background. If I don't, you're gonna have just blackness, or it's gonna be, you won't be able to get that color, because basically the colors that you made your polygroups are now gonna be options for the colors of your 3D objects. But there's one more thing we gotta do first real quick. And let's see this. We gotta decimate it because it's at 9 million polys. So we just come back up here to decimation master, pre-process current. This one's only 3.21 or 1.2. Y'all following along? It's all making sense? Okay. The hardest part to remember is we're just making a texture. So the big thing that we care about is how it looks going out, not how many polys it has, not how it's unwrapped. All we care about is how it looks. So if the decimation screwed up how it looks, we wouldn't decimate it. We'd have other options. But since decimation does the best at down-resing things without messing the way they look, that's where we go. And I'm probably going to leave this at 1, but you don't have to. You can just put it up to 10. 10 is probably safe. It should be 600 polys. Yeah, let's do 5. There you go. 312 polys, decimate current, and it's 156. So perfect. We'll come up to the next one. That one's good. Come up to the next one. Then we're going to decimate current, or you have to pre-process every one. There's another way of doing this. You could also push just 20K, whatever you want, and it'll decimate, it'll calculate it and decimate at the same time. So, I mean, I'm just doing it at 5% because that's the way I'm thinking of it, but we can just do, let's say 20K. This one probably doesn't even need to be decimated, but okay, so we'll go up to the next one. Now this one and this one, even though they're separate polygroups, I can add them together now. So all I have to do is go to the top, which is this, the squirrel, and say merge down, like this. And now you'll see that there's still 2 polygroups. All that matters is it's 2 polygroups. It doesn't matter what color they are, because polygroups are stupid. Anyway, their colors palettes are always stupid. So in this case, I'll just say, let's do 150. Let's see if we screw anything up. It's not perfect, but it works. Okay, go on to this one, and it's 1.67 million, so we'll decimate current. We know it's all one piece now because I collapsed them. I probably should have just did 250 or 150 or whatever. And then we'll do decimate current to 5%, and it's done. 88K. Grab this one, figure out which one's on top, this one, and we will merge down. Okay, which again is inside the subtool, merge subfolder. So I'm just going to say it's at 460. We'll just go to 250. That's fine. Should take no time. Should be no mess up. Should be simple. And then this one is 48K. I think it's fine. You know, oh well, I didn't do much to this one. So, okay. So now I've got them all. And if we look at it now, it says it's 4.2 million. But don't forget, you still have your original stuff. This is before, this is also in counting. When you see this, it's everything in that polygroup. So these 2 are broken into pieces. This folder has pieces that are, you know, how big they are when you add them all up, they add up to more. So what we're going to do is just say visible. And if you want, you can also get rid of delete stuff and all this stuff. Or you could do something like this, so you can make sure you're only grabbing what's visible. You could say, instead of merge down, you can say merge visible. And what it did is it moved everything into its own separate subtool. It's one completely collapsed subtool. If you look at it, they're all still different colors, so it's still fine for what we were talking about. Even though these seem like they're the same color, oh my gosh, when did you do that? You suck. Okay, hold on. Let me go back to the one. That's the great thing about having an original. Why would you do that? Okay, hold on. So let's do auto group. Yeah, now we got them separate. It didn't break them apart, but they're now separate. At least that's all I cared about. So I can come back in here and just say again, merge visible. And if we come back over to here, we can see that it's 746K for the whole thing now, instead of the 8 or 9 million, which I think was probably because they were doubled up. But, and everything is separate. Yeah, even though this is stupidly colored, it's still a separate piece. And you can tell because I can hide the other one. Here, let me turn this off. So this one and this one are the same. are not the same. So even though they look like they are. These two are the same too now, weirdly. Okay, let's try it this way. Auto groups. Bam. That's fine. I don't really like it. So what do? We hide this one, not that one. This one. So we hide everything else. And then we push Control W, and it's only going to do it to the objects that are visible. And then we unhide everything, and now we have our spheres as one, and the other ones as the other. This stuff I didn't break up. These are fine, and the background's still the good. I didn't break these up. I didn't really do much with these. Okay, so we have it. We have all these pieces are separated out. It should be perfectly lined up with the square. The big thing you have to remember is in substance, they need to be in the same exact position. That's the big thing. That's why if you put that background in there, they need to be depth correct, and that's why all that stuff happens. So we know that that plane, which is a duplicate of the original plane, is perfectly lined up, and that's exactly what it's going to make out of it, so we just export. So we just say File, Export, and then say As Groups, Export, and we'll say Geo. It takes a minute. Even though it's 746, it shouldn't take that long. And it's done. We open up Substance Painter. In theory, any plane we import in here would work, but the important thing is they're lined up the same, so that's why we're using that. That's why we export out of ZBrush both parts. If we don't export out of ZBrush both parts, then it ends up biting us in the butt because they're off by a little bit. So we know that this texture base is exactly lined up with the other one. We come in here and we bake, and we change this to 2048 at least. And we pick our high-res map, which should be right there. And then we come down to ID, and we make sure it says material color. So we'll see what it does. If you don't, we may need to re-export it as vertex color, but this should work because that's what we set it to export as. Back to common, and we'll see what it bakes like. Okay, so it baked like this. Perfect, right? No. So what's the problem? By default, Substance Painter bakes at a certain distance. This is basically, do you understand what that means? The max distance and the minus distance? Do y'all get what that means? Anybody not get what that means? Do you know normals are made? They shoot out rays for however long you tell them to, and when it comes back with the information of when the next object outside of it hit. So our max distance is not long enough. So we'll do 0.1, and we'll try again. Oh look, lo and behold, there it is. Now the question is, did it bake our ID map? And if it did, it looks like this background is the same color. So, okay, so now we have an ID map, basically. So what's an ID map? An ID map tells Substance, and it's a horrible color set, by the way. So sometimes I take this into Photoshop and change the colors so they're usable, but that purple, and the purple and pink above it are different colors. So you know. You just can barely tell, but you can kind of see it in there. Okay, so if I say export recess or whatever, select this folder, then I come over to that folder. And I go into VGA4. that's the texture we're looking at. So see how this and this are very close? They're still technically different. I hate that it does that. So I probably could change the color inside of Unity or ZBrush and it could fix some of this, but it's still pretty bad. So what we could do is we could bring this into Photoshop if you want. If you're getting problems, because it's going to use that color and a variant of that color to be able to get that. So if I go W for select color, and then I pick, and make sure it's not that. I grabbed everything that was that color within an 8 pixel variant. And this is a big picture too, so it looks like it's overlapping, but it's really not. It's very little if it is. So in this one, I'm just going to go Control U and change this to be something different. How about colorize, saturate yellow. Okay. So now I have this. Okay, so that means all those little cracks in there, those were things that baked in unintentionally, and I can just get rid of them if I want by doing a fill or whatever, but that's fine. This is my grout now, basically my grout color. So if I save this, and I come back to Substance, and I go to here to that texture map, and I take this color map and I drag it in here, and I import it as a texture, and as a current session import, there's now 2 of them, which is fine. Because what I'm going to do is come over to my materials here, and you see how this color ID, if we roll over it for a second, it has that pink. We're going to take this one and throw it into that folder in that placement instead. And now if we roll over it, you'll see it's got the same pink because you suck. This. What the heck are you doing? I bet you it doesn't like that they both have the same name. Ugh, stupid. Stupid, stupid. So I'm just going into here and getting rid of everything but color map. So when I drag it back into here, I'm guessing that's what it's doing because I've never seen this happen before, but I haven't fought with it as much as this Pioneer. Throw this in there. This looks right. Until I get to here, and then it's not right. Okay. So weird. It looks right here. Well, we'll use the pink for now, and I'll figure out why and tell you. But okay, so now we've got our normal map. Now we've got our baked object in there, and now what we do is we make a folder, and we use the style that we're talking about before. But we're just talking about for this point why we did this baking stuff with the colors. So inside of this folder, I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna put like a texture. We'll do like a material. We'll do fabric base. Okay, so now I have a gene wall apparently. So all I have to do is inside of this folder, put it in a folder there, and take this folder. I always do things inside of the folder, don't do it on the master. You can do it on the master too, but always start with a folder. And then you're gonna go from color mask with color selection. So you go there, and then you look and you say pick color, and look, everything is the color that you just baked out. So now I can say, I just want the grout or the cloth to be this stuff. And now nothing else is that stuff. So then when I want grout, if I come back in here and do leather bag grout, because you know that's something. Put it up here, and then again I put it in a folder like this, and then I do a fill with by color selection, pick the color, and do this. And now my bag has leather grout. My jean texture stone wall has leather grout. So that's the big thing. Like if I want this to be steel, right? So I come in here and I'm gonna say this is stone. So we'll just grab the stone texture. Do something. throw that on there. And then I'm going to come to the silver pure and throw that on there. And then this one is going to get a color mask. I should do it in a folder. And let me not tell you not to do something and then do it. Remove mask, so put it in a folder. The reason you put it in folders is because this is the master for this object. You still can mask in sub pieces for this. So sometimes, what if I didn't want dirt everywhere or wanted to add some more grime to the dirt? I could do that, but then it would, if I did it to itself, it wouldn't work well. But if I did it to this, it's only going to be in here. So let me turn off this over pure, and then I'm going to come back in here to this mask, do the same thing, go color selection, pick a color, and it's going to just be this. And now it's stuck back there like it's supposed to. And then I come up here, I turn on pure silver, and look, none of that grout and none of those rumbles. Like if I turn this back off, you'll see now it's going through everything. I can turn it back on. That's, some people ask, why do I put it on things that aren't going to be its own grout? Well, so I'm going to do a fill, drag this to that folder, to a fill, and do mask with color selection, pick a color, and we're going to pick this one. And now I have that. Okay, and now, since it's in a folder, I can come in here and do like, I really want to put some, let's see, I want to make it have grit on it. And I drag that into the folder. Oh crap, that was bad. I put it on the object after not to. Okay, remove it. Do it on this one. Say color selection. Pick a color. Grab this. Okay, so I have it on there, right? Is this? I can change this from normal, just like in Photoshop, to an overlay, or I can change it to a multiply or something, and then I can put another mask on here, like maybe one of these custom ones, or I can build my own. I can use a smart mask and say I want this to have a dirt or a dust or a dirt dry mask on itself. So basically pull this off. Usually, a lot of people put this down here. I actually usually have it on a separate screen, so you can throw this on top of there. And now, if I take this dirt mask and then mess with contrast, I can start to put it across the surface of it on there for myself, but still all within the mask for this piece here. So like if I wanted to come back and do this denim, you know, I can add more stuff to the denim. I can keep going, you know, whatever way I want to go, I can keep adding more to it because it's inside a folder that's controlling exactly where it's being processed or put onto. Okay. Cool. I put a link to Stylization in the general. This is that website. I'll see if I can find the exact tutorial that I kind of followed. And it's funny because there's tons of ways to do that stylized look. That video I have is a lot simpler than what they have. And my suggestion is you do exactly what I did. You make one stylized example, and then you duplicate it and you put the masks across them as you need. You know, if I just duplicated, let's say I want denim on the top folder, or I want it on something else, I could just come to this right here, remove it, remove this mask, and then come back to it and add a new mask for mask with color selection, pick the color selection of this. And now I've got the same thing, but now I can come into this baseball hat one and change it to red or whatever. You know, that way you're still doing the same work, but you're saving yourself repeating the same steps over and over and over again. I mean, if you want to do it twice or 3 times, that's fine. It's up to you, but my suggestion is, and then the big thing too is naming everything. Naming like second stones and bottom, and it's just double click stones. And then you can move them out of order. It doesn't matter the order in here. And then you use your masks for everything. Masks are the key for everything inside of here. It's how you get everything to start looking more and more realistic or more stylized in our case. Also, there's another trick that I use. Okay, so let me turn this all off real quick. The stylization way that I showed you is pretty cool. There's another thing you can do that I like too, so you're welcome to try this. It's a little bit different, but it works pretty well in my opinion. So I'm going to do a fill layer, and in that fill layer, I'm going to put it in the folder. I'm just going to use it for everything. But in that fill layer, I'm going to come up to here and go to my textures, actually, the ones that baked. Do y'all know what these textures are when you bake them? You know what they're baked? I mean, you know what position is, for example? Yeah? I see a couple of heads. How about you, Will? Do you know what this position is? Okay. Super easy. So let me go over to the project. This is how you know what these do. Throw them into a base color. Basically, and it's not used anywhere else. You'll never get a position map out of substance. But basically, it's telling substance what's high and what's low, or what's right and what's left. That's all it's for. So when you're saying moss is growing from the ground, it knows where the bottom is and it knows where the top is. When you're saying things like that, that helps. Like for this right here, thickness is, this is a thicker piece than these down here for whatever reason, because of the way I made it or whatever. But this is the one we really want to look at. This is called a curvature map. And already by just putting that on there, I hope you already see it starts to look like that stylized stuff that we saw from him. Okay? What a curvature map is there's used to be two maps. There used to be a concave and a convex map. Convex map is telling the engine, or telling the texture what is going backwards and where those points meet. So the depth. And concave does that. And convex is telling you where the highlight, where it has a sharp edge, where it breaks. And that's where you get this. So by doing this, and you come here and like this, we'll get rid of all this stuff. And then I'll throw another fill layer below it, and we'll make this one like red or something. We're going to change this to overlay, and then we can take it and duplicate it, and you can start to get that overlay color baked into it instead of the other way around. You can also change it to something like just lighten. The only problem with that is you need to get in Photoshop to get it to be a little bit stronger, which you can do like a multiply. You can play with it and get all kinds of information and feel for it by doing it this way. And this is kind of the same thing you're trying to get by doing that stylization look. Okay, you're trying to get a highlight across all convex edges and then pushing back anything that's more cracked. That's pretty much what it does. And you can do that pretty well with this kind of map. The biggest problem with this map is it's so neutral. Well, it's just so black and white. It's just here. Export resources. We'll just send the same place. Open up Photoshop. Open. And we'll go to not there. This is the map. So if we took it and put it into levels, and we turned down the black and turned up the white, you could get that look. If you could do something like this, you'd really get a contrasty piece, because you could just say only highlight, or light means it only, in Photoshop, if you use lighten, it means the highest values get seen and the darker values don't, from white to black. So everything that's black gets in a lighten overlay, which is the same thing as of course it's a black and white image. Mode, color. Don't merge. So everything that's lighten, see how black is ignored? And everything that is on the other side of it, multiply, now white is ignored. Overlay is the both of both, takes the highs and the lows and it puts them on. So, if you really played with it, you could get it to look, really contrasty. You could blur this out. You could do a bunch of little quick things inside of Photoshop and then get it to be even more dramatic in here so you can see the whites instead of it bleeding through to the reds if you really wanted to. But it's all up to you. I'm not opposed to you doing it the way that I put in the video. It's totally fine. It's just be aware that there's other ways to do the same kind of thing. And whatever way makes your brain work the best, do it that way with me.